Hello and welcome everyone, Andy Bryan here from the Soul Pathway, and today within this video I wanted to speak with you about universal love and interconnectedness as we go about our soul pathway and we answer to our heart's calling, as we notice and identify the interconnectedness with each and every one of us, and we embrace the universal love of one another. As we start our journey and our soul pathway, we are definitely living from a place of lack in many ways, because sometimes we're shackled by the conditions and structures of society where it's based on fear-based consciousness, and fear can play a massive role when it comes to love, especially when it comes to universal love and those incredibly beautiful spiritual loves where we connect with people at a very deep level at times. It's important to embrace these situations, but when we start from a place of lack, we're living in that place of ego consciousness where at first we start our journey off, and our journey starts off with self. And when we start off with self, what we're trying to do is we're trying to connect with the ego-based consciousness, and that is how we start to live our lives. We start to discover and find what it is that we love. But in many ways, we look at that from a third dimensional aspect. So we look at that in the work that we do, because we look and search for love in our work. Also look at love within our relationships, and obviously within our family as well. But when it comes to ego-based consciousness on love, what we tend to be doing is we tend to be living by the conditions of what's shaped us in terms of love, in terms of maybe our parental conditioning, our societal conditioning, and even our cultural conditioning that has really told us this is how we can love ourselves and embrace who we are, or this is, in some ways, when you've grown up in families that may not have given you the love which you truly deserve, because each and every one of us deserves beautiful and unconditional love, that you may feel that lack of self-love because you don't feel like you've ever been given it in the past. So what does self-love truly look like? And this is when we tend to look at those patterns and conditions, and we try to identify what it is love truly is for us as we connect with our unique path and mission. And I'm a big fan of astrology. I'm not an astrologer by any means though, but what I would say is, in terms of connecting with what love truly means for you, I do believe it's a good place to look in your birth chart. Because your birth chart, what you can do is look at Venus, because Venus represents the feminine, which is very much connected with love. Where does that fall in your chart? And that can help you connect with, in many ways, what love means for you as you connect with that universal love. But you start off, as I said, in this ego-based consciousness where you're looking for those, conditions and patterns that have shaped the way that you look at love initially and how you embrace it. Because what you're looking at doing is stepping away from those conditions and patterns so that you can embrace what love truly means for you, rather than stepping into relationships and situations where you're actually stepping through patterns of how your parents and your upbringing served love to you or projected love upon to you, because in many ways we can have repeated cycles. Repeated cycles can go over and over and over again, and this can go back from ancestry, because we often carry certain patterns through from ancestry into our own lives as we go about our journey and our pathway. So it's really important to identify those conditions, those patterns and behaviours, and more importantly, start embracing that unconditional love of self and that is what's really important. So what happens then? What happens when we step into that universal love? And this is what is truly beautiful and blissful, because once you start embracing the universal love of oneself initially, what you'll start to do is not only embrace life and all it is, but you'll start to connect with your mission, your purpose, what you feel is true and right for you. And you start to follow your path. You start to live your life through what you love in your work, in your relationships, in your family. And it emanates outwardly. But universal love is really not a place from ego consciousness at all. You know, universal love comes from the soul. And it comes from the soul, and as I said, it emanates outwardly. And what we start to do in these situations is we start to notice and identify the universal love of each and every one of us, and the interconnectedness of each and every one of us at the same time. So you can go out for walks in nature, and you can find that place of stillness where you're becoming at one with yourself and nature. And you love yourself in these small but very poignant moments, as you allow nature to allow you to let go of conditions and patterns of what you thought was right, as you step into what your soul is calling you. That is really important. You also notice the interconnectedness of each and every relationship you go through and these experiences. Whether you have beautiful, incredible, soulful experiences that bring unconditional love, whether they're in your friendships, whether they're in your intimate relationships, or whether they are within your family. These beautiful, soulful relationships are amazing, and I believe it's really important to honour each and every relationship that you have, from the most intense and incredibly beautiful, experiences and soulful connections, to those connections that aren't so intense, but they give you those moments of clarity and beauty, and they're very still and they feel and resonate with your soul. But that's universal connectedness, and that's universal love, without conditions, without projecting your conditions and beliefs onto anybody. Because what you're doing is, what you're looking at is serving yourself, and not from an egotistical standpoint. But when you serve yourself in terms of unconditional love, you allow others to step into a place of unconditional and universal love themselves. But they need to honour it themselves, as you need to honour it within yourself at the same time. So that's really, really important to look at. But universal love is really, really important. So we've got universal love with, the connections that you make on a daily basis, with your work, with nature. And what I would say is the universe at large, because we go through ups and downs on our journey all the time. And this is what makes our life incredibly beautiful and amazing, because we have those blissful moments. We do have those moments of sorrow as well, where we don't feel so good about ourselves. But when we notice that and we connect with the bliss of those moments in time, that's when we connect with the universal love of divine timing, as it's bringing us exactly what we need as we learn and we grow and we serve ourselves and those others we meet on our journey at the same time. So this, for me, is noticing all of that and connecting with all of that. Again, goes back to my necklace. The yin and the yang. The light and the darkness. Connecting with the beauty that lives within you in order to embrace what it is that is outside of you. But it comes back to that interconnectedness of each and every one of us and all of the experiences that you go through. You can go through some of the most traumatic experiences at times that bring you some of the deepest lessons. And yet once you reflect upon these emotions and these experiences, they can give you those light bulb moments. And those light bulb moments are truly incredible and amazing. And when they show up to you, that's when you connect with the love of everything and all that surrounds you. And this is when you connect with your inner flow. Because life has its ebbs and flows. And if only we could go with the flow and embrace whatever it is that is showing up for us, then we can live from a place of universal love in every moment. I hope you have found this to be valuable, insightful and useful. If you have any questions or comments, as always, please be sure to leave them below this video. And I do have Soul Pathway Clarity Calls. You can always connect with me through those Clarity Calls, and I can support you on your journey and Soul Pathway as you awaken to your true self and you connect with universal love.